Hello, everyone. Wanted to share with you this poem that came through me today. I'm studying the Sufi Way of the Beloved, of course, by Andrew Harvey, and I'm just so inspired by the Sufi practices. And so here goes. The poem is titled, Can't Take My Eyes Off You. Can't take my eyes off you, says the beloved. Would you not take your eyes off me too? I long for your gaze, as you long for mine. That breath-catching moment where time stands still, and all is as if at once transfigured into a paradise made for us. Don't take your eyes off me, beloved, as we dance. In my eyes, you will see. In my breath, you will be the many dancers and the dance of ecstasy. Just don't take your eyes off me, for I cannot but keep my eyes on you. To gaze on your beauty eternally, I made for us this inexhaustible love story. So, how did that land?
That's beautiful. Did you want me to keep recording, yes?
Yes, and I thought maybe I can explain some of these lines.
Yes.
The whole thing about the Sufi path that I've been learning is that God is understood as the beloved, the ultimate lover, and that you are not the subject. You are the object of the beloved's creation. The beloved is the subject and you are the object. So you cannot see yourself except through his eyes. And this whole thing of being created to be the object of love of the Supreme is really cool. You know, we go through life yearning for love, and to realize in this path that we are soaked in this love. We were created to be the object of God's love and the beloved's love, So this thing that the beloved's eyes are on us like a very personal love story, 24/7. And all that the beloved asks of us is that we don't take our gaze off him ourselves, So when we're in love, there is this beautiful exchange of eyes, right? When eyes meet and when that gaze locks. And when I do the Sufi whirling, you put your hand out and you look at that hand and you whirl. And it's as if the world turns in its chaos, but you're oblivious to it because all your eyes are locked on is the face of the beloved you're seeing in the palm of your hand. So as you whirl, you fall into your center. There's no one but you and love and the beloved. And that sense of being one with that wonderful sense of being in love and that we yearn for. You find that, you become that, and then is the ability to see that around you, everything is the beloved in his different faces. And therefore, in the Islamic tradition, they have the concept of the 99 names of the beloved as 99 faces of God. And they're called Asma'ul Husna, where these are the beautiful names of God. And yet, if you understand each of those 99 words or names, they are everything from the most beautiful, what's called the Jamal, the gracious, loving face of the divine, and the Jalal, which is the fierce and, scary face, sometimes angry face or challenging phase of the divine. And then to recognize in that non-dual way that all these are just different ways in which the beloved is loving you. And so when you look around you to see that you may be seeing this person or that person, this situation or that situation, but to zero in on that fixed, unchanging light of the beloved inside the core of each of these things, and to not take your eyes off that, right? And then suddenly, everything becomes this wonderful living dance and love story where there is only the two of you and the beloved. And the whole idea of fana or annihilation is that in that dance, you so yearn for union and do not wish to be separated and to know yourself as separate from the beloved, that you completely merge yourself into that. You dissolve yourself into that. And so then all that's left is the one. Left is love. It's such a magical path. It's such a loving path. It's such a radical path. Kind of fills all my needs as a woman who yearns for the experience of that passionate, all-consuming love.
That's beautiful, and I often, I mean, as you were reciting the poem, I experienced a little bit of like the whirling, and I remember reading about, you know, Rumi's time where there were those whirling dervishes where people went to almost experience that whirling. I mean, one doesn't have to go into an event to do that, but one can experience it even just listening to that beautiful poem we just recited and feeling yourself sort of caught up in this sense. And before you explained whether it was a object or a subject, it felt as if I wasn't sure who I was looking at, right? So there was that almost like I'm not sure who this poem is being written for and who is the poem being written about, you know, and as you explained it as it being us being the object rather than we being the subject writing it. It's a nice interpretation. Yeah.
So thank you. And to tie it to Shakti leadership, you know, the conscious journey where when the world is in chaos around us, instead of feeling it as a trauma, to actually willingly dissolve ourselves and to submit to the whirl and the storm, to fall into its center where the stillness is, where the love is, where the beloved is, and then to really find that Shakti of love take you over, and that then helps you emerge on the other side as a greater being, a more encompassing being, which is, you know, out of the dissolution is now then evolution. You become more of who you can be. And then to come back, not just as you, but as you and the beloved. You as the beloved. You know? To be able to come back, because only when you come back as that new you, can you resolve the dualities and the crises you see around you, and are no longer in this self-indulgent place of a love affair within, you know, because it now becomes a love affair with all that is.
Which brings another question. So if we are each having an experience of having this union of love with our beloved, of the divine, of the creator in a way, how would that translate to when we do fall in love with each other? How would that experience add to as opposed to detract from? Like, it's not a lesser love, it's different kind of love. But if we're all one, then in a way we're almost falling in love with ourselves twice over. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think you just answered your own question, right? That when we are not fully in the beloved, then we settle or we project our own incompletion on another human being, and we expect that person to become the beloved, which is a very unfair expectation and will never be met. And therefore I love the Shahada, which says La ilaha illallah, which says that there is no beloved but the beloved. So to not expect your partner to be the beloved, because there is only one beloved, right? And that's that. And but to be able to see at the core of your personal love, the person, to see at the core of that person that same light, that same love of the beloved shining. And for you to be in touch with that same light and love in yourself, and then to joyously exchange and commune in that wonderful state of love, right? You are in love in the beloved. And that's the only sustainable way to experience the beloved in a personal way.
Well, and then there's the other question, which is, we come closest when we become a mother or a father as our children come through us, because I guess we fall in love with them the moment they're born, even at the moment they're conceived, right? And yet we forget that they have come through us, and they are also the face of the beloved, that we need to be a role model, be living our lives as much by seeing everything around us as the face of the beloved. How can we not dote on our children too much? Almost, giving them the status of, love greater than ourselves, when and kind of teach them through our own actions that that we are needing to model to them that we love them as we would love the beloved, because we see the beloved in them. But how do they learn how to see that in themselves, is the question.
I think, first of all, it's for you to model it, and come back to the poem. The beloved is saying to you, don't take your eyes off me as we dance. In my eyes, you will see the reality, right? In my breath, you will be the unity that is beyond the duality, right? So it's really about you holding yourself in this state of consciousness, in this kind of a non-dual, universal state of love, which then knows how to make it deeply personal to your object of affection, because that universal love can be offered in its fullness to this one person as a face of the beloved. So it is where you are stationed yourself as you offer love. If you're in your ego and seeing yourself as, I am the mother of this child, then you cannot be as the beloved, loving this child as a face of the beloved. You have to first shift your state, your consciousness, into this place where you're back in your dance and your still axis, where your eyes are locked with the beloveds. Right? And as you are in that state of love, to be then able to see those same eyes in your child's eyes.
Yes.
And when you model that and you are exchanging that great love between your child and you as just the beloved exchanging love with itself, then your child knows what that experience feels like. It's a visceral experience. It's not just a concept.
Yes, and then if we can take that one step further, imagine doing that in business and doing that with people or persons that you have conflict with. Imagine the possibilities.
Yes, for me, that is the big aha from this work that I'm doing. That to know that the beloved comes with 99 names and faces, meaning a wide assortment of everything in between, the Jalal and the Jamal and everything in between, the fiercest and the most loving and all shades in between, right? And to know that no matter what the face is, it's still the beloved. And to practice that, to try that on for size, to play with that idea, and to kind of create that loving feeling in yourself towards that face. Seeing it as a game, seeing it as a play of hide and seek. Right?
Yes, yes. Yes, that's wonderful. I guess the word love has had so much misconstrued in the use of it that we forget that love is really about having no conditions, put on it. And love comes because it helps us get to where we need to truly be. And of course, it will come in its fiercest moments because we're not listening when it's loving. So there is that sense. And thank you for this, because I was writing a little blog to contribute recently to actually a health blog in Australia. And I wanted to write a little bit around how do you love as a parent, and because it's all health begins in role modeling as a parent, how you do that with a child, and hopefully that is something you can bring to work and role model it with your colleagues. But this question that you have now posed and helped me think about is, yes, if we actually did look at it through the different lenses of love and role model that through our own daily living, that's the best gift we can give our children.
And what I love is the kind of bookend to the La ilaha illallah, that there is no beloved but the beloved. The bookend mantra for me is the first line of the Quran, which is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And translated, the way I understand it, is that this beloved is soaked in mercy and compassion. That this whole creation of the beloved is a mercy and compassion soaked womb. And you cannot be anywhere out. There is no place beyond the womb. So you can't fall out of the great mercy and compassion of the beloved. So for parenting especially, that whole idea of tough love, And again, I'm just loving how all this is relating to Shakti leadership. When we say the final mark of a Shakti leader is their ability to be the wise fool of tough love. So the wise and the fool is that parent-child union, the wisdom of the parent self, the higher self, along with the foolishness and the innocence of the child within that still has the ability to learn and grow and stay open and curious, right? And the Sufi path is full of foolishness. I just feel of all the paths I've studied, the fool is what the Sufis have mastered, just in that radiant bewilderment, going through life as to, oh, hey, what's around the corner next, and I just heard another lovely saying that the fool did not know that it was impossible, so he went ahead and did it.
Yes. And isn't it so true that when we look at the archetype of the jester or the joker,
Yes.
in any culture or in any story, didn't they say that when we can create much more, we can heal more with laughter in 1 minute in our bodies than if we had sort of an intention? I suppose you actually probably create more illnesses, right? So in a way, that fool and the jester allows us not only to heal ourselves, but also to kind of venture forward to say, hey, you know, there's even more possibility. You know, don't even worry about the hurts that have happened. Let's just step forward and try something else.
You know, so this thing of to be the best possible parent you can be, to be centered in that axis of the wise fool, where you're co-holding those two dualities, those energies, and from that place to co-hold the tough love. It seems to me that if you're in your wise parent, it'll be very hard to access tough love. But if you have integrated the fool in you, which means the part of you knows how to be identified with that child in you, right? Then you become a better parent, and you know when to be tough and when to be love. And even that tough comes from a fierce love, you know, that Jalal face of the divine.
Yes.
And the love is the Jamal, the gentle face of the divine.
Well, as we both know, when we get much clearer of what it is to be a conscious leader, I mean, like, as we would say, parents are really the first leaders of the home that any child would experience. You know, having this consciousness of, first of all, that it is about being loved and be loved, but through the lens of a divine beloved, living that and having the intention to role model that, and having the ability to not just be that egotistical parent, but the parent who has the ability to be flexible, whole and flexible, and still stay congruent as he or she dances between being wise and foolish. And also not actually identifying with just like, as in Shakti leadership, the masculine and the feminine. Just, there is, you know, the masculine protector in every mother. I'm sure we've seen the liners come out when, you know, you hurt the child. But certainly the really empathetic, nurturing, creative feminine that, you know, that surfaces even in a father. So it's not about that, the man being the man and the woman being the woman, that finding that inner man and that inner woman in all of us. So that wise full of tough love, as you're talking about, you know, just finding that toughness and that lovingness through the masculine and feminine in all of us. How powerful is that?
Yeah, and I think just to sum up this dialogue, which is a beautiful dialogue, thank you for that. It's kind of a Shakti Sufi dialogue,
Yes.
right? So to sum it up, it feels like Shakti leadership and the Sufi path is not for the faint-hearted, is not a little band-aid patch. We're really audaciously seeking a very radical state of change for ourselves. You know, we're being audacious to say we are the beloved of the beloved. You know, we are unabashedly claiming our divinity and bringing that to leadership. And because only when we bring in that kind of a spiritual force of love, not the polarized, ego-based love, but really a non-dual love, a spiritual love, are we going to be able to achieve the wise food of tough love? Otherwise, it will forever feel a bit schizophrenic. We will feel forever splintered. We will feel forever, you know, just as we grasp one part, we lose another.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, because it certainly has given me food for thought in terms of having the, as you call it, the dialogue, you know, bringing Shakti leadership into intentional parenting. for us to actually have a dialogue with ourselves first before we even dare to step out and be the role model we truly want to be for our children, so that they can live with more purpose and love with more passion and power, and in a sense, the legacy we leave with our children is to actually love ourselves as our beloved would love us.
Yes, and to just again clarify, if this is going to be heard beyond our audiences, that when I use the word schizophrenic, it wasn't in any way derogatory. It was really coming from a profound sense of knowing that each of us is a split being until we find this inner center of the beloved, and that love, that non-dual love of the beloved. And that itself is perhaps the most radical cure for any kind of incompletion that we experience psychologically. And it's a hard path, and yet there are people before us through history who have achieved it. So those of us who feel called to are invited to go for it.
Yes. Well, and we say, like, welcome to our own hero's journey. I call it perhaps not just the hero's journey where crisis hits before you choose to change, but how do you take your hero's journey 2.0, where you anticipate that change and allow parts of yourself to, in a way, dissolve, so that you can resolve yourself as a more whole being, right? Through the flexibility of understanding the parts by which you play. As you would say, the divine has 99 faces. Well, what gives us the right that we only have one? So if we are made in a similar form, then we should have 99 parts that we need to learn how to integrate and reconcile as we move forward. So yeah.
Yes, and perhaps therefore do not see it as something that's wrong with us when we see ourselves as split beings, but to compassionately see that as play, and that we are capable of regrouping these lost parts, and to reframe it, if we can, as that game of hide and seek, where we lose ourselves and break up into many splintered parts, and then we put ourselves back together as this beautiful kaleidoscope, again and again, creating more beauty, more visions of beauty, experiences
so that we
of
might be
beauty.
seen as the beloved sees us, and we will not take our eyes off the beloved, which is really us.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Awesome, isn't it?
Yes.
So on that note, thank you.
Thank you for that.
We can stop the recording.